My name is Michael O'Brien. I spent 11 years and 43 days in prison for a crime I didn't do. I am the author of this book, The Death of Justice, and I've explained about my experiences. In 2004, I produced this document for a public inquiry into all the miscarriages of justice cases which have occurred in Wales from 1982 right up to the present day, right up to Di Morris's case. And the last case we put in here was Di Morris's because we believe a serious miscarriage of justice has occurred. There is no doubt about it in my mind. You've got to look at the evidence. It is very important you look at the evidence in this particular case. I believe Di Morris is innocent, and the reason why I believe he is innocent is because there was no evidence there to convict him in the first place. And there's no forensic evidence which actually links him, no DNA. I mean, there's DNA belonging to somebody else, but not Di Morris, which needs to be explored. I believe a public inquiry should be taking place into Di Morris's case and all the other miscarriage of justice cases in Wales. The Davell Brothers, Cardiff Newsagents 3, the Lynette White Inquiry, Annette Ewins, and many others. During my investigation of the miscarriages of justice for the dossier, I come across a lot of wrongdoing, not from just South Wales Police, Crown Prosecution Service, and also the fact that the solicitors didn't do their job as well. The lack of legal representation beggars belief. And when I done my research, 85,000 people have been released since the Guildford 4 story broke in 1989. Only 2 police officers have ever been brought to book. Now, the latest developments in my case is where they said they were not going to bring any charges against any officer. It still rackles with me to this day because there is evidence there, but unfortunately for me, the Crown Prosecution Service are the ones who will not prosecute the police. And it is down to them. And if the public want to have any confidence in South Wales Police or the CPS have to start charging police officers for wrongdoing. I believe Di Morris is innocent because there was no evidence to convict him in the first place. This gold chain, which may or may not have even been his, I don't see the relevance of that chain. You could clearly see the reasons why he was found guilty. He was found guilty on his previous conviction. We all got photographs which shows us in a bad light, and I got some in my collection somewhere which I look like Scary Mary, as they say, when I'm having a bad day or something. But that doesn't give them the right to put photographs in there which gives a misleading portrayal of somebody which can lead to their conviction. Showing somebody with tattoos and looking like a madman is not going to help anyone's cause, and they shouldn't be allowed to do it. He may have a past. He may have done things wrong in the past, but that doesn't mean he actually carried out this crime, and I do not believe for one moment that he did. I would say Di Morris is an innocent man languishing in prison while somebody outside is responsible, walking the streets, and should be in prison. Just like the murder of Philip Saunders in my case, and all the other cases, the Davell Brothers cases, they're still walking free, and it seems like people don't care. Well, we care, and we aim to get Di Morris out, is to prove him innocent, because that's what he is. Going through prison knowing you haven't done a crime is probably one of the most psychological, damaging things which can happen to you. And I know exactly how Di Morris may be feeling that he's never going to get out, because that's the feelings I had. I was never going to be cleared. And then I'd get days then, I think, right, I'm going to fight now. I'm not going to take this no more. And I'm going to push it further. And I'm going to write to as many journalists and MPs as I can. And I'm going to try and overturn this conviction. So I do understand how Di must be feeling. I want to send him a message to keep his chin up, and there is hope. This new book on the Clydach Murders just coming out by John Morris, I think it's really set the cat amongst the pigeons because there's some serious questions to answer. I am totally convinced in my own mind after seeing the evidence in the Clydach Murders book and the evidence at the trial, at the appeal when I was there, and I seen how flimsy the evidence was. I can categorically state that I know that Di Morris is not a murderer. It's not on what he's done before. It's irrelevant. Everybody's got a past. That doesn't mean to say you're going to be punished twice for the same offence, which is what appears to be happening here, because Di Morris didn't have a very good record, that it was able to be pinned on him. And we must recognise that you've got to look at it with fresh eyes, and you've got to look at it with an open mind. And I'm hoping the Criminal Cases Review Commission, which looks at these bodies, and which I'm meeting as a matter of fact, and I will be bringing this case up with them, and hopefully this case will be referred back to the Court of Appeal after further investigations are carried out. What I do know about Di Morris's case is there was hardly anything against him. Nobody saw him. When you look at the brutal way these people were murdered, and yet there was no forensic evidence against Di Morris. I mean, that's extraordinary. It must have been somebody who had forensic knowledge not to get any blood on them or any samples whatsoever from the crime scene. I find that astonishing. Well, I went to the appeal when Michael Mansfield was arguing that he didn't have a fair hearing. I would argue not only did not have a fair hearing, a lot of the evidence which was used shouldn't have been used. The solicitors were at fault. There was a conflict of interest, a clear conflict of interest, and on that basis alone, the conviction should have been quashed there and then. Never mind being sent for a retrial. He should have been, it should have been thrown out at that stage. Solicitors didn't do their job as well. The lack of legal representation beggars belief. When you consider they've had 3 junior counsel, 3 QCs, 3 barristers, and yet they still didn't do the job. I was involved in the Panorama programme, and that came about due to the dossier I put together saying I wanted a public inquiry, and I've always believed a public inquiry was necessary. The way forward for David Morris's case now, unfortunately, whether people like it or not, it has to go through the Criminal Cases Review Commission. That is the only body who has the power to send the case back to the Court of Appeal. And I just want to say I would not be sitting here now if it wasn't for them investigating my case. They're well aware of South Wales Police's practice, and they are better placed to judge and to refer the case than probably anybody else. We need accountability. That's why we need a public inquiry. We need to know what's gone wrong and lessons to be learned. And the only way you're going to do that is a public inquiry set up by a High Court judge to look at all these cases, have a look at all the similar fact evidence, put it all together, and then make recommendations so we can put them in place to stop these things from happening again, like the Di Morrises of today. And there's still other cases I can't mention at the moment because they're subject to appeal, which need investigating. But it's politics now. It's not just a case of a miscarriage of justice because of the ramifications. If they released him tomorrow, the ramifications in this case would go on and on. And can the authorities afford to do that? The number of cases I have seen, take for instance my co-accused Darren Hall, Stephen Miller, the Darvell brothers, they all got that common thread that they're very vulnerable. And you will still see in the other cases as well, Di Morris is very vulnerable in certain circumstances as well because of his past. I met many prisoners. I couldn't read or write properly when I was in prison, and I taught myself. I went on to education. I had to do it because I needed to know what went wrong in my case. So I took up law, and I see many people struggling to write letters to their loved ones. And, many of us used to try and help them the best we could. Illiteracy is really, really a big thing in prison. And more resources should be put in place. South Wales Police do have tendencies to make up evidence, and that's been shown in my case, the Darvell brothers case, the Cardiff 3 case. And there does seem to be an institutionalised problem. Right up until Di Morris's case, who knows, there could be more lurking around the corner. But if there are more to be identified, then that strengthens the cause for the public inquiry. My personal message to Di Morris is you have to hang on in there. You have to do whatever you can to survive. Try and write to people. It doesn't matter how difficult it may seem. Just put pen to paper, explain your case, and get journalists involved. You've got a good campaign, and I'm saying from an innocent man to an innocent man is you will get your name cleared. It will take time, but you will get your name cleared. And people outside like me who will be fighting for you, and we will do whatever we can to get you out and make sure that this is seen and proven miscarriage of justice case, because that is what you are, innocent and a miscarriage of justice victim.